I'm 76 years old. I was a bridge engineer for 35 years. In 1991, I looked at a set of concrete tests and I saw something that scared me. I had a choice: sign off and keep my career, or stop the project and lose everything. 5 years later, a bridge built by another company collapsed. 12 people died. The bridge I stopped is still standing. I need you to understand something before I go any further. When you drive over a bridge, you don't think about it. You just drive. You trust that someone, somewhere, did their job, that the concrete is solid, that the steel is sound, that the calculations were right. You trust that a person you'll never meet made the right call. That's what I did for 35 years. I was that person. I started in 1956, fresh out of engineering school. Back then we did everything by hand. Slide rules, paper calculations, no computers, no simulations, just math, experience, and a lot of coffee. I worked on 17 major highway bridges in my career: overpasses, river crossings, interchange ramps, the kind of structures you see every day and never notice. That's the job. You do it right, nobody notices. You do it wrong, people die. By 1991, I was the chief structural engineer at one of the largest construction firms in the state. I had a team of 12 people under me. I reported directly to the vice president of operations. I was 51 years old, at the peak of my career, and I was about to throw it all away. The project was called the Ridgemont Overpass, a 4-lane highway bridge crossing a freight rail line and a small river. Nothing unusual. We'd done dozens like it. The contract was worth $14 million. The client was the State Department of Transportation. The deadline was October 15th. Here's the part that matters. In August of that year, we started pouring the main support columns. Concrete work, the foundation of everything. I was reviewing the batch reports one evening when I noticed something. The compressive strength numbers on 2 of the column pours were lower than spec. Not by much, maybe 8%, within the acceptable variance technically, but something felt wrong. I ran the numbers again. Still bothered me. I went to the site the next morning at 6 a.m. before anyone else arrived. I walked around those columns. I looked at the surface. I looked at the curing patterns, and I felt it. That feeling you get after 30 years of doing something. The feeling that something isn't right even when you can't prove it yet. I requested additional core samples. My project manager asked me why. I told him I wasn't comfortable with the batch reports. He looked at me like I was crazy. "We're 3 weeks from the deadline," he said. "The numbers are within spec. What's the problem?" The problem was I didn't know. Not yet. The core samples came back 10 days later, and they confirmed what I feared. The concrete in 2 of the main columns had not cured properly. The internal structure was compromised. Micro fractures, air pockets, the kind of defects that don't show up on the surface but weaken everything from within. I took the report to my project manager. He took it to the vice president, and then I was called into a meeting I'll never forget. There were 4 people in that room: me, my project manager, the VP of operations, and a man I'd never met before, introduced only as a consultant from the client side. They closed the door. The VP spoke first. He said, "The deadline is in 3 weeks. The governor is scheduled to cut the ribbon. There are television cameras coming. We cannot delay this project." I said, "The columns are compromised. We need to tear them down and re-pour. That's a 3-month delay minimum." The consultant leaned forward. He said, "The numbers are within acceptable variance. Your own reports show that. Are you telling me you want to delay a $14 million project based on a feeling?" I said, "I'm telling you I won't sign off on a structure I don't trust. This is the moment. Right here. This is where everything changed." The VP looked at me and said, "If you won't sign off, we'll find someone who will." And then he asked me to leave the room. I went home that night, and I sat in my kitchen for 3 hours. My wife asked me what was wrong. I told her I might lose my job tomorrow. She asked me why, I told her because I won't let people drive over a bridge that might kill them. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Then you already know what to do." The next morning, I sent a formal letter to the State Department of Transportation. I detailed my concerns. I included the core sample reports. I requested an independent structural review. I copied the State Engineering Board, and I copied my own company's legal department. 48 hours later, I was terminated. Official reason: insubordination and breach of client confidentiality. I was escorted from the building with a cardboard box. 35 years, gone in an afternoon. But here's what happened next. The state ordered an independent review. That review found exactly what I found. The columns were compromised. The project was halted. 3 months later, the columns were demolished and re-poured. The bridge opened in February of 1992, 4 months behind schedule. There were no television cameras, no ribbon cutting, just a quiet opening on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't invited. I spent the next 2 years fighting a legal battle to clear my name. I won. The engineering board ruled that I had acted appropriately. My termination was deemed unjust, but by then, no one would hire me. I was 53 years old, blacklisted in my industry, and starting over. I took a job teaching at a community college, Introduction to Structural Engineering. I taught for 18 years until I retired. I never built another bridge. But that's not the end of the story. In 1996, 5 years after I was fired, a bridge collapsed in another state. Different company, different project. 12 people died, 43 were injured. The investigation found the same defect I had found: compromised concrete, microfractures, air pockets, the kind of defects that don't show up on the surface. The engineer who signed off on that bridge was 62 years old. He had a family, a reputation, a career, and he was under the same pressure I was under. But he made a different choice. He signed, and 12 people paid for that choice with their lives. I think about him sometimes. I don't know if he was a bad man. I don't think he was. I think he was tired. I think he was scared. I think he told himself the numbers were close enough. I think he convinced himself it would be fine. That's how it happens. Not with malice, with exhaustion, with rationalization, with the slow erosion of standards under pressure. I keep a newspaper clipping in my desk drawer. It's from February 1992. A small article, buried on page 12. Ridgemont Overpass opens to traffic. No photo, no fanfare, just a bridge, doing what bridges do. Holding weight, letting people pass. I drive over that bridge sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. And when I do, I think about what could have happened. I think about the cars that cross it every day, the families, the trucks, the school buses, 12,000 vehicles a day, every day for 34 years. And I think about that meeting, that room, that choice. Here's what I've learned, and I want you to hear this because it took me losing everything to understand it. The work that matters most is the work nobody sees. Foundations, welds, inspections, the calculations done at midnight, the questions asked when everyone wants to move on. The courage to say I'm not comfortable with this when saying yes would be so much easier. That's what holds the world together. Not the grand gestures, not the ribbon cuttings, not the names on the plaques, the invisible work, the thankless work, the work done by people who will never be recognized for doing it right, only blamed if it goes wrong. I lost my career for doing my job, and I would do it again. Not because I'm brave, I'm not. I was terrified. I was angry. I grieved for years over what I lost. But I can drive over that bridge. I can look at my grandchildren and know that when it mattered, when everything was on the line, I chose correctly. Not the easy choice, not the safe choice, the right choice. You're going to face a moment like that. Maybe not with a bridge, maybe not with concrete, but somewhere, someday, you're going to be in a room where doing the right thing means losing something you care about. And everyone around you will have reasons why you should just go along, sign off, move on, Don't make trouble. When that moment comes, I want you to remember this. The people who benefit from your integrity will never know your name. The people who pressure you to compromise will forget you the moment you're gone. But you will live with your choice for the rest of your life. Make sure it's a choice you can live with. That's all I have. If this meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment and tell me about a time you had to choose between what was easy and what was right. And if you want more of these conversations, subscribe. I've got a few more things to say before I'm done. What's the bridge you're building right now, and will it hold?